Hello, I am presenting to the PMO Global Awards on behalf of CAMH, the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, located in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And my name is Carrie Fletcher. I am the Senior Director of Health Information Management and the Enterprise Project Management Office. I would like to start to describe to you a brief overview of the Project Management Office here at CAMH. And in doing that, I'll describe to you the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. CAMH is Canada's largest mental health and addiction teaching hospital, as one of the world's leading research centres in the area of addiction and mental health. We combine clinical care, research, education, policy development, and health promotion to help transform the lives of people affected by mental health and addiction issues. We have 550 inpatient beds, 3,000 staff, and 395 physicians. Annually, we have just shy of 500,000 outpatient visits, 10,500 emergency department visits, and over 30,000 unique patients that seek our services here at CAMH. We have 6 strategic directions: enhancing recovery, earning a reputation for outstanding service accountability and professional leadership. We are building an environment that supports healing and recovery, igniting discovery and innovation. We're revolutionizing education and knowledge exchange. And finally, we are driving social change. The Enterprise Project Management Office was established at CAMH back in September of 2012. The organization had many different initiatives going on across all portfolios, and it recognized the need that we needed to bring things together under one consolidated view across the organization. The Enterprise Project Management Office is the one-stop shop for all project management at CAMH. We are here to enable projects through successful delivery of sustainable change at CAMH through 4 pillars. We have a standardized methodology to deliver projects. Those get aligned with standardized tools and templates. We educate the organization, both our formal project management resources, and we also bring education to the organization to ensure that we're building capacity for project management at CAMH. And lastly, reporting. We are the single source of truth for all of the projects across the organization, and all projects get reported on a monthly basis at CAMH. We assist in departmental, clinical, and organizational-wide initiatives. We provide highly customized approaches and recommendations to deliver practical outcomes. So we are not seen as a barrier, we are seen to enable projects. We offer in-house project management, consulting, and project support from a hands-on team, and we apply a flexible project management methodology to suit our stakeholders' needs and the varying needs of the projects across the organization. In terms of the historical journey of the PMO, our PMO has evolved over time. The PMO implementation plan was approved by our CAMH Business Operations Leadership Team, and the hiring of the operations team occurred back in the fall of 2012. That led to the development of all of our methodology and our tools and templates, the initial development of those. Back in 2012, the EPMO was agreed upon to move forward as a decentralized EPMO, bringing together and recognizing that there was small PMOs across the organizations and project managers that were delivering projects on behalf of various different business units individually. It was felt that with the culture of the organization, they were not ready to hit off with a fully centralized PMO at that time, because the organization needed to understand what value the PMO could bring to the organization And there needed to be trust that was built across the organization, that the PMO wasn't all of a sudden going to take over and shut down projects, determine what projects moved forward and what didn't. That just was not the culture of the organization at the time. Then we were operational for just over a year or so. And in 2014, early 2014, we went to the executive leadership team and we showed some very simple metrics. We showed that project managers that were formally reporting into the Enterprise Project Management Office were meeting their milestones 73% of the time. Whereas those project managers who were individually reporting to a particular business unit or portfolio, on average, were only meeting milestones 34% of the time. This metric was powerful enough for the executive leadership team to endorse the movement from a decentralized enterprise project management office to a centralized project management office. And this happened over time. So as new project managers were hired, they were hired in through the Enterprise Project Management Office, and then they were assigned to projects in different portfolios, essentially developing our matrix reporting structure. With this movement, the PMO grew from a team of 20 to a team of 30 staff. We expanded the formal project management support to our clinical programs and human resource portfolios. And we developed both standardized and light templates and project management training provided to additional departments. The reason for the standardized and light templates is it further allowed us to align the project management rigor to the complexity and needs of the project, which further had the organization buying into project management, not seeing it as another layer of bureaucracy or more documentation to complete just for the sake of completing documentation, that the documentation that was completed was a value add to the project and was done solely in order to move the project forward. As we're moving through the years and moving into 2018, we are continuing to expand our project management support and our PMO team. We have been recognized internationally by the Project Management Institute, and we are now shifting from doing project execution very, very well to further embedding ourselves with identifying priority projects across the organization and also ensuring that our change management approaches and also our evaluation of projects, both during the project and following the project close, will be firmly embedded so that we can do a better job of tracking benefits realization across the organization. In terms of building the EPMO and getting to the stage that we're at, we had to take baby steps. We had to understand the culture of the organization and ensure that the success of the PMO was really going to be built on developing relationships and trust across the organization. So I'm going to speak about overcoming some of the barriers with our stakeholders as we've developed the PMO over the year. Gaining trust. Stakeholders and project sponsors at the beginning of the EPMO's journey, they were uneasy with the concept of having their projects run through the EPMO. We took painstaking time in building relationships, looking people in the eye, and letting them know that we were here to support their project and drive it forward, not here to shut it down or police their project. We have consistently executed and we are consistent with our quality and professionalism. We have always maintained a customer-focused approach to our work. We recognize that CAMH itself is not in the business of delivering projects. It's in the business of delivering healthcare, education, health promotion, and providing research in mental health and addictions. And we are here to support those main functions. And we have shown that we can allow for flexibility. So as I spoke to before, having the standardized and light templates, bringing a flexible approach to the rigor of project management. Ownership and accountability. We had stakeholders that were very fearful of losing sole ownership on initiatives and control of the work. We have worked to understand when to provide our stakeholders with space. We are very purposeful in our approach in terms of we work collaboratively with them. We understand our stakeholders and our project sponsors' needs right from the beginning. We sit down with them to understand how best to work with them, how they want to be communicated to. We clearly explain the project life cycle and how we're going to work through it, what documentation is required, where our skill sets are going to be required and where they are going to be required to work with us, and how we're going to communicate with them. We focus on collaborating, and we understand our role in projects is to provide all of the information to the executive sponsors, to the key stakeholders, for them to make the decisions. It's not the projects team's responsibility to make the decisions. It's the projects team responsibility to provide all the necessary information so that the project sponsor and key stakeholders can make the most appropriate decisions. And as I have said before, we are here to enable projects, not to police them. In terms of accuracy with reporting, and I'm going to speak to here, addressing challenges with our team. So first we had accuracy with reporting. We had our project management staff, in particular those that started to come into the PMO in the early days, and perhaps they were more subject matter experts that had been rolled into a new project manager role, and they didn't really understand the importance of reporting and how actually reporting could help them in driving a project forward. They were hesitant to report on delays and milestones, issues within their project reporting because they felt that this was going to be personally harmful to them in terms of their personal performance. What they didn't understand is that actually their role is to identify when risks and issues are emerging, and that is their role as a project manager to identify those and bring them to key leadership decision-making bodies so that those barriers can be addressed, mitigated, action plans help to be developed, and the barriers removed. We really worked at discouraging a culture of blame, and we encouraged people to report more appropriately. We provided one-to-one training and discussions on why it was so important. We provided those educational opportunities, more formal educational opportunities for our PMO team. We worked with the stakeholders to help them alleviate concerns about project reporting because some of our stakeholders didn't want their project being reported to an executive leadership table and seeing yellows and reds across key performance indicators. So we worked to show them that once again it's presented as what are some of the organizational barriers to this project and how as an executive leadership team can that team work together to help remove some of those barriers to drive this strategic project forward. And of course, we did informal check-ins with project teams. So really keeping a pulse, the EPMO operations team, really keeping a pulse on how the projects were going, how people were feeling, what support did they require, what training did they require, et cetera, et cetera. We also moved to centralizing our team. The team lacked a sense of cohesion while moving to a centralized PMO from a decentralized structure. So we centralized our team in many different ways. We physically have located the vast majority of our project members to one area. We have annual team building events to bring everybody together. That's a mix of professional development, but also a fun activity where people learn to relate to each other and learn about each other on a personal level, which always leads to better team cohesion. We have weekly team meetings, and we have for over 4 years now, that bring the team together, provide organizational updates. We share project spotlights across the team so that teams can understand what different team members are working on. And it's also an ideal time that we can see where projects need to align with one another and can learn from one another. We recognize our staff and give weekly kudos and shout outs to people. And we have a presence of strong leadership. So our operations team is always available for support and guidance. And where they're not able to meet the need, they try their best to link our project management resources with somebody in the organization that can assist them in what they are requiring. And of course, we are always continuing to strive for excellence. So we continue to invest in our team with innovative approaches to education and professional growth that bring value to the organization. So we have the professional development workshops, providing education days and funding. We have added the senior portfolio manager role to allow for broader project portfolio oversight and staff management. This was a really key role, especially as the team was growing and the volume of projects was growing, that we shifted to a portfolio management structure. We have had the creation of a student program that is held in very high regards at the universities we recruit from. And we also have a 20% student retention post-graduation. So these individuals learn the organization, learn the work, and many will come back to us and work under an employment agreement. And of course, we have formal and informal feedback that's provided to all team members in the forms of performance reviews, in the forms of informal coaching in the moment, regular status meetings with all staff, and of course, annual development plans so that we can identify what development needs do certain individuals have. What are their career progressions, their career aspirations, and how can we help them to achieve that? Now I'm going to talk to our PMO structure and relationships. I'd like to start there before getting into our more detailed org chart and our actual PMO headcount. I'd like to speak to our connection to the organization. So as I spoke to in our history, we have grown over time and we now support all portfolios across the organization. Formally, the Enterprise Project Management Office reports into the Chief Information Officer's office, and we support both CAMH and its fundraising branch, the CAMH Foundation. Within CAMH, we have multiple portfolios. We have clinical, research, human resources and organizational development, finance, the information management group, professional practice, communications and partnerships, education, legal services, redevelopment, and support services. We have project management staff and resources supporting all of these areas with approximately 60 active projects at some point in the project life cycle. Within these areas, what we have identified is some areas have more projects and have required our structure of a senior portfolio manager. So for example, our clinical operations, given that we are a hospital, that is our primary business, it has a senior portfolio manager with multiple project managers, senior project manager, multiple project managers, and a senior project analyst under it. Within our information management group, we have a large volume of IT infrastructure, corporate application projects that require a senior portfolio manager. Under redevelopment, CAMH is under a major redevelopment right now, and we are working with our redevelopment office on operational readiness for our clinical programs to move into the new buildings. This is a very large piece of work with multiple projects underneath it, so we have senior portfolio managers there. And as we get more funding, when there is a defined plan for the operational readiness projects, that team will build with more project managers underneath it. And lastly, within our information management group, back to it, we have our clinical information system. So it is the information system that gathers all of our clinical data across the organization. And so we do have a senior portfolio manager for our clinical information system. The EPMO, although it reports formally into the information management group, it has an accountability across the organization to ensure that all projects are executed equally and equitably. I will ask here, this slide only focuses on a very high-level snapshot. We have provided as additional documentation our most up-to-date org chart. We currently, as of May 2018, have 57 resources, which includes full-time permanent staff, contracted staff, and co-op students. Our break between full-time permanent staff and contract staff is approximately 50-50. The reason for this is it allows the organization to expand and contract in its project resources. We are very fiscally bound by an annual cycle. We are publicly funded, so we need to ensure that we're not putting the organization at risk by having too many full-time permanent staff. If on an annual basis our budget gets decreased, then we need to be able to flex the projects and the resources that are aligned with those projects most effectively. And having a mix of 50% full-time permanent staff and 50% contract staff is very helpful in doing this. We have been very fortunate that the organization has seen consistent funding and at times increased funding. We have many contract staff that are enjoying their work at CAMH. They're performing very effectively. They've learned the organization and they want to learn different projects within the organization. So we've been very fortunate that we've been able to extend many contracts. The operations team of the EPMO is relatively small. It's myself as a senior director. I have a senior manager, a senior project analyst, and an administrative supervisor that ensures the effective operating of the enterprise project management office. This ensures that all of our monthly status reporting is completed. The development of dashboards is completed. We are working on moving into change impact heat maps so the organization can understand what is going on and the impact of that across our frontline staff. We also are the internal consulting engine, so not every project meets the needs of a formal project at the organization, but we do go in and this operations team provides consulting support across the organization. They also provide all of the administrative support to our project management staff through reporting relationships, and they run the student program, which is a very effective student program. We have 5 senior portfolio managers, 3 senior project managers, 18 project managers, 9 senior project analysts and business analysts, 5 project analysts, and 13 students. We have a very clear progression in terms of people's career progression within project management. Our project analyst role is the entry-level role. Then people, should they desire and have the skill set and have proven themselves in terms of their work, can move into a senior project or business analyst role. Then people will move to a project manager, and senior portfolio manager. Should there be the work that meets the needs of those roles and also the funding to meet those roles. The PMO has a very large role in the organization. It is now seen as the engine that is driving all of our strategic initiatives forward. In terms of our alignment to CAMH's strategy, CAMH has one strategy that drives all portfolios of the organization forward. The organization's vision, it aims to provide the best mental health care, research, education, and social change. We are transforming lives. In terms of the mission of the PMO, in order to achieve that vision and support CAMH in doing that, we enable change in the organization. We are the engine that drives change. We do this through our 4 pillars: methodology, tools and templates, education, and reporting. In terms of our methodology, when implementing projects at CAMH, there are 5 checkpoints that help to increase a successful implementation. These are through the stages of opportunity, initiation, planning, execution, and closing. The PMO ensures flexibility in the checkpoints to align with our stakeholders' unique needs and the project's unique needs. So depending upon the complexity, the size, the dollar value, the type of project we are doing, we ensure that the methodology and the documentation align with that. We ensure that a waterfall approach or an agile approach or a hybrid approach is used to best meet the needs of the project. In terms of the tools and templates that support that methodology, we use standardized tools and templates that are made available to ensure the continuity of our services across the organization. And we ensure that templates are used as templates should be. If there is a spot on the template or a section of the template that does not bring a value add to the project, then it does not need to be completed in detail. It's noted that this is not relevant to the project, but all project resources should be thinking through all of the standard sections on a template to ensure that they have critically thought through whether something is important to a project and has a value add or not. All projects do have some mandatory documentation, and those include a business case where the need meets our investment decision-making policy, a project charter that clearly outlines the scope of the project, clearly outlines the governance of the project so the project understands who will be making decisions, what type of decisions will different bodies be making, and clearly sets up for who are the key stakeholders, who is going to develop any working groups where required, steering committees where required, who needs to be communicated to, etc., etc. We also have a very clear project plan needs to be developed for all projects that outlines milestones, the tasks in terms of achieving those milestones, who is accountable for that milestone, and what the exact timelines are. Monthly status reports are required that also identify key performance indicators such as scope, budget, and timelines. They also identify key risks and issues for the project and what those mitigation and action plans are respectively. And lastly, a memorandum of understanding. So all projects need to close off. Prior to the initiation of the EPMO, we had the issue where project managers turned into operationally supporting the projects they led. This has now ceased through the function of the memorandum of understanding that projects officially get handed off to operations and our project managers can focus on the next projects. Education. We value generation across the organization through project management workshops and internal consultative services. We offer project sponsor boot camps, project management 101s, Microsoft Office training, and the PMO is very committed to ensuring that its formal project management resources are continually receiving professional development through professional development internal to the PMO, through external opportunities, through conferences, through academic journals, and various different workshops and speaker series. Lastly, reporting. Reporting is rolled up into value-add dashboards for executives and leaderships to support strategic decision-making. Project reporting covers key areas to enable projects rather than policing them. We speak about scope, milestones, budget. We flag those projects who are at risk, and we bring those to senior leadership tables for discussion to be able to remove any barriers in terms of moving that project forward. In terms of the support provided by the PMO, we have two types of support. We have direct support and indirect support. In terms of the direct support, a project needs to meet one of the following 4 criteria. The total project expenditure, capital and/or operating dollars, needs to be greater than $250,000. External funding, so funding from our foundation, external funding outside of our global annual budget of greater than $100,000. A project that involves more than one program or business unit, as that automatically adds more complexity to a project. And a project that is of high strategic importance. So let me note that all projects align with our strategy, but there are key priority projects every year that are driven through our CEO goals that count for this high strategic importance. What a direct support project will receive is the assignment of formal project management resources to formally manage the project, the required use of the standardized tools and templates and monthly project monitoring and status reporting, the identification of interdependencies with and impacts on other projects so that we can assure alignment between projects and ensure that there is success across all projects, ongoing coaching and mentoring from the PMO staff for all stakeholders involved in the project when and where necessary, and of course a satisfaction survey to identify how the EPMO can improve. Indirect support projects are smaller projects, those projects that individuals are doing off the side of their desk, because in every organization that will exist, and everyone always has some element of project management in their work. So the project's expenditure will be less than $250,000. External funding is less than $100,000. It involves only one program or business unit, and there's a low to moderate impact on CAMH. The project management methodology overview is provided to a person that may be implementing that project. Project management consultations by the EPMO operations team is done. We are seen as that small internal consulting firm. We provide coaching and mentoring, and if requested, the project can use our light templates. All of our templates are provided to the organization at large on our intranet site. And of course, satisfaction survey to once again identify how the EPMO can continually improve in supporting these types of projects. Lastly, we provide support, whether it be formal or informal, at all project phases. So from a business case perspective, how can we help to turn ideas into a project? Sitting down with individuals and really taking, I want to achieve X, and really understanding the why and the how are you going to do this. and what resources are going to be required to do that, both from a project management perspective, but also from an organizational perspective. What operational areas of the organization is this going to touch, both from a project perspective and then when that project needs to be owned in operations? Helping then to prioritize those projects at that opportunity phase, and also really defining the vision of the project. With the initiation phase, we have our key document, the project charter. The project charter then takes that seedling of an idea that is in the business case, and it further communicates the idea into a clear, robust project. It gains more sponsorship from leaders, gets more buy-in, very clearly sets the scope, clearly sets the governance structure, and clearly identifies the resources and what their commitment is going to be needed for the project and for any operational ownership of the outcomes of the project. As we move into planning, it's that detailed work plan, that detailed project plan, bringing effective planning of all the actions required to deliver the end goal. There's your resource planning and your very detailed budget planning. So understanding exactly what the impacts of this project are going to be and how we are going to execute upon that. Execution, our key document here, is the status reporting. Identifying areas of concern, so the risks and issues of a project, and the opportunities for improvement. So what are the mitigation plans and the action plans? Linking the project data and results to improve performance. In particular, in those projects that are using a more agile approach, a more plan, do, study, act cycles, we ensure that the project is actually meeting the goals. And then finally, the memorandum of understanding at the close phase, celebrating the successes and accomplishment and formally transitioning to operations for sustainable change. So ensuring that there is ownership on the outcomes of the project, so the project outcomes don't die off after a very short time and once the project team support leaves that project. So the most important piece of this presentation, what are the benefits and the impacts that are generated through the PMO? When we look at the business impacts of the PMO, and then I will speak to specific projects that the PMO has executed upon, but in terms of business impacts, we have brought the right people together to enable collaboration and knowledge sharing across the organization. We are truly the single source of information on projects across the organization, which did not exist before. We allow people to bring projects together to align projects that meet both strategic needs and operational needs. We are facilitating conversations with CAMH's executive leadership team to make strategic directions and set priorities. We are establishing a certain level of standardization among all portfolios for project execution and sustainability of the change that comes from those projects. And of course, we are providing an avenue for growth, change, and improvements. I will say it again, we are the driving force behind the organization achieving its strategic goals by working in tandem with our partners in all the business units across the organization. In terms of our achievements within the PMO for fiscal 2017-2018, we had 16 projects that closed and transitioned to operations. We had 8 conference presentations and 4 academic journal publications. These are key because CAMH is an academic health sciences center. We are fully affiliated with the University of Toronto and the World Health Organization. And we see it as very important that the outcomes of the work we are doing are publicized, are presented so that others can learn from us as an academic health sciences center. And from a customer service perspective, we had an 89% satisfaction rate from our project sponsors in terms of the execution, in terms of the quality of the project resources that we were assigning to work, and our ability to execute upon projects. Where there was dissatisfaction, that was very quickly acknowledged and rectified. You can see the total number of formal projects that have been started each year has increased year over year. So in 2013-14, it started out with 10, and now the total number of projects that were started, commenced in 2017-2018 is 40. Keeping in mind that not all projects close within the same fiscal year they open in, and we are many of our projects are multi-year projects. In terms of the benefits realized, we are flagging some of our highest strategic importance projects here. HIMSS Stage 7 is the highest stage you can reach on the Health Information Management Society's rating. We are the first academic health sciences center to have achieved this stage rating for our clinical information system. Simply put, this means that we are providing the safest care to our patients here at CAMH by standardizing and integrating patient information so that information can be shared across the full patient journey, right from referral or admission into CAMH through to discharge in the community. We have improved process efficiency throughout the organization, so we ensure that there is no paper across the organization, that everyone has access to all documentation on the patients we are providing care for. It has ensured that we have data to drive performance improvement. So for example, in terms of closed loop medication, ensuring that the right patient gets the right medication at the right time through the right method, we have increased to having a 99% closed loop medication rate. This has decreased the number of medication errors by over 900 potential errors per month, simply by ensuring that we know what medication a patient is getting and are they getting it at the right time and through the right method. As spoken by our President and CEO, Dr. Catherine Zahn, we take great pride in being a global leader in healthcare information technology. Better, faster, and easier access to information means better patient care. In addition to this, we are also allowing the documentation at CAMH to be uploaded into an e-health repository called Connecting Ontario. This ensures that when our patients, and they have consented to this, are going and seeing community providers, the community providers are able to access the information on the care they received at CAMH. This has huge system impacts by ensuring that there's not duplication of tests, duplication of referrals, because there is clear communication between the hospital and other providers in the community to understand the care of that patient. On the flip side of that, CAMH also has access to documentation from community providers, from other organizations, so that they can understand their patients better when they are arriving on our doorstep. The next is an acute care bed expansion project. So we are increasing the number of beds at the organization by 23. The reason that this is absolutely tantamount to the operations of our organization is that we are seeing more and more patients coming through our emergency department. We are seeing more acute patients, and those patients are needing to be admitted to our beds. We simply do not have enough beds to serve the population that is coming to the organization. The organization was successful in achieving additional funding for these beds, which is a huge accomplishment given the publicly funded environment that we are in. And the undertaking of developing a brand new unit, ensuring that it has all of the policies and procedures into place, it aligns with the bed flow of the organization, it has the proper resources in place to meet the clinical needs of the patient, the clinical information system is in place, the furniture and fittings in the space is a huge undertaking that impacts upon every business unit. The PMO and its project manager drove this forward. In the words of our physician-in-chief, the team's dedication to serving people experiencing complex acute care needs was inspiring. Our hope is that the new unit will build on our efforts to provide timely access to outstanding person-centered and evidence-based care and support. Safety of CAMH's staff is another huge priority. Once again, with the very acute nature of our patients, the complex needs of our patients, we need to ensure that our staff have all the tools to ensure their safety so that they can most effectively engage in a therapeutic relationship with our patients and ensure the patients get the care they need. We had a multitude of personal alarm systems for those patients that may have found themselves in a crisis situation. And we recognized that nobody knew who was maintaining what system, who had ownership of it. When we had a management shift in systems, maintenance of systems or knowledge of those systems fell through the cracks. And so it was determined that we needed to shift to a single personal alarm system across the organization. We now have a new wireless alarm system that is linked directly to our locating and switchboard that can automatically discharge our security staff to support staff and patient safety. We deployed 620 alarms in our inpatient units and held 77 training sessions across the organization. From a staff member who is one of our most important stakeholders, are our frontline staff members in all the work we do, here are her words. It gives us peace of mind to know that we can just press a button on our alarm and other people on the unit will be able to come and find us. We now feel really safe. That means that our staff are coming out from behind the nursing station to more effectively engage in our patients. That increases the care that we're able to provide and the safety of our patients and our staff. And the last project that I'd like to highlight, these are 4 of close to 60 active projects, but we're just highlighting these 4 in the essence of time, is our digital strategy, camh.ca. camh.ca is our primary website of CAMH. It's not just your typical website, though, of any company. This is a website that people go to in order to understand how they can get access to our care, how they can understand maybe a diagnosis that themselves or a loved one has received with mental health and addiction. It's a website that provides up-to-date knowledge for both professionals and laypersons. And it's also a website that drives to our CAMH Foundation that helps the organization to raise funds for the critical work that we are doing at the organization. This project had the vision for the site to be the go-to place in Canada for mental health. The digital strategy was established and executed with our external webpage for the organization. This took a 70-person team, and thousands of web pages were transformed to ensure that we had the most up-to-date information to access care, to gain information about diagnoses, and to really link together various different pieces of work that are being done within mental health and addictions. It also aligned with a complete rebranding strategy of the organization and advertising campaign to ensure that people understand that mental health is health. In the words of our VP of Communications and Partnerships and our VP of Information Management, people will be able to easily find CAMH services, sign up for courses, access our research, find up-to-date health information, and get involved with CAMH and with the mental health movement. The project was truly an organization-wide effort. Congratulations to all on a job well done. The PMO has been the driver behind all of these projects. Project management resources have been formally assigned. They have worked with stakeholders across the organization to bring these projects to life, and these are of key strategic importance to the organization. So when we look at that organizational engine for change, all of these pieces come into the funnel that is the EPMO. We have been the engine to achieve the organizational Vision 2020 and the mission of CAMH in transforming lives. As the organization moves to the next level and we move into our next phase of redevelopment, we are also taking the PMO to the next level to continue to meet the evolving needs of the organization, but also recognize that CAMH has embraced the PMO. They have bought into it. They have drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And they are recognizing that the PMO is the place that can continue to take them to the next levels. In terms of moving it forward, what we are wanting to do is we're wanting to shift from that entity that implements projects to truly giving strategic delivery of projects. And in doing that, we're focusing on 3 key areas. We are more formalizing our relationship with the Office of Strategy to have further strategic alignment. So in the past, the Office of Strategy, the executive leadership team, they are identifying what their goals are for the year, and then that has come to the PMO to execute upon it. What's now being realized is the EPMO has the knowledge about what is going on across the organization. It has the knowledge based on the current projects to help to feed into that strategic prioritization of projects by letting the executive leadership team know what's the capacity, what are we hearing the need is, what is working across the organization, and what needs further alignment for us to be able to achieve Vision 2020. So we want to have an active role, and we have started our journey in having an active role for annual priority setting and operating planning. Gating for project implementation. So as the organization moves into this next phase of redevelopment and ensuring that our clinical programs are ready to move into those buildings. And we also have a huge undertaking in terms of accreditation for the organization. We need to ensure that the organization has the capacity to take on new projects. We're also aligning projects strategically. So if 2 projects can be built into one, for example, a major crisis intervention training for staff and a new model for decreasing aggression of patients are coming together to align into one project instead of two pieces of work. It makes more sense for our clinical staff, decreases their confusion, increases the efficiency of the project in terms of the resources that are required for that project, just as an example. Next is working more closely with our organizational development in terms of change management. So we're identifying the change management needs more fulsome at the business case and charter phase. We are identifying what projects, same as what we do with project management resources, require formal change management resources. Projects that are really impacting upon a huge cultural shift within the organization, and what projects require more of a consultative nature for change management. We're introducing a change impact heat map in working with our partners in organizational development, identifying the impact of the change, in particular on our frontline staff, so that we can further understand the capacity of that staff to take on new initiatives and new change across the organization. And also working on more outcome evaluation. Currently, as we shift projects into operations, the operations owns that. But sometimes there's projects that don't most effectively manage or check in on the benefits of those projects at a 3, 6, 9, 12-month interval. So working very closely to ensure that sustainability of the change. And that leads us directly into evaluation. So working with our counterparts in performance improvement and education to ensure that we do have a robust evaluation plan where it meets the needs for the project at the outset of the project. And of course, additional value add activities planned in terms of really meeting the needs for that project implementation gating. We have the inception of the Project Advisory Board with our CAMH Operations Committee to introduce that concept of gating. So when a project that's going to impact across the organization is being in the opportunity phase, it will come to this Operations Committee to describe the need for the project, the how is the project going to be accomplished, the impacts of the project, both from the impacts of executing that project on the organization and the impacts to the operations of the organization. And we will get feedback from across the organization on key considerations for that project as it moves forward. We will have as spoken to earlier, the addition of our organizational impact heat map to further support the executive leadership team in their strategic planning, really understanding the impacts of all this work on our frontline staff. And lastly, we're bringing our projects to life. It's one thing to look at a project dashboard and understand what's going on, and it's a very, very valid, useful tool. But what was missing is for those individuals who may not be directly involved with the project is to take it from just being a project name and a couple of sentences on a project dashboard describing what that project does, to having quarterly project spotlight videos brought forth at that operations team. So that operations team, who's made up of individuals from across all portfolios in the organization, can really understand the impacts of the projects, hear it from those people who have been impacted by the outcomes, and really bring that project to life. This has been tested at a meeting last month, and it came back with very favorable response. So overall, we continue to evolve and change, meet the needs of the organization. We really are the engine that drives this organization forward, and we couldn't be prouder of the work that we do, both bringing value to the organization and huge value in terms of the projects that we're executing that really impact upon the lives of the patients that we treat and the staff that work at CAMH. Thank you.